Kid Cudi walks towards the federal courthouse, smoking a cigarette, wearing a leather jacket, a white t-shirt, and some blue jeans, looking like he don't give a. First thing I'll say is Cudi maintains his confidence throughout his testimony, even making the jury chuckle at one point. He tells us that he first meets Cassie in 2008, but it wasn't until 2010 that Diddy approached him about collaborating with her. So in 2011, the two get in the studio together, and things don't end well. Cudi says the two got close, and he fell in love with her, and to his knowledge, she and Diddy were over. He says the two talk every day, and then towards the end of the year, she confides in him and tells him that Diddy abuses her, that he hits and kicks her, and it infuriates him because he loves her. And then one day, shortly before Christmas, Cudi gets a call from Cassie around 5, 6 a.m. in the morning, and she sounds stressed. She's panicking. She tells him that Diddy found out that the two were dating. Then she says something that stresses him out even more, that she gave Diddy his address and that she doesn't know what Diddy's gonna do. So the two check into a nearby hotel. Cudi says Cassie's a wreck. And then Cudi gets a call from Capricorn Clark, who is Diddy's former assistant, and she tells him, Diddy is inside your house. At this point, Cudi says Diddy has crossed the line, so he calls him, angry, and in a calm voice, he says Diddy tells him he's here so that they can talk. So now Cudi says he's rushing home so that he can fight Diddy. But then on his way, he realizes that he doesn't know what he's walking into. He doesn't know if he has guns. So he calls the cops. Now Cudi says he left his front door unlocked, but when he gets home, he realizes the security cameras have moved. And when he goes inside, he sees that Christmas presents have been opened and that his dog that roams freely around in the house was locked in the bathroom. Days later, Cudi flies to Connecticut to be with Cassie and her family for Christmas. And it was during this time that Regina Ventura, Cassie's mother, says she received an email from her daughter that made her physically ill. Cassie opened up about the abuse and told her mom that Diddy was threatening to release a sex tape starring her on Christmas Day and another shortly after, and that he also threatened to send someone to her, both her and Kid Cudi. During this trip, Kid Cudi says that Diddy was calling him multiple times, but he didn't want to talk to him, accusing him of breaking into his home and hurting his dog. Now it's 2012, and the relationship that Kid Cudi had with Cassie is fizzling. But things are about to get worse. Cudi is out of town and gets a call from his dog sitter telling him his car is on fire. His reaction? What the? Someone had ripped a hole in the top of his black Porsche convertible and dropped a Molotov cocktail inside. The inside was badly damaged and charred. Cudi says he realizes things are getting out of hand, so he calls Diddy and says he's ready to talk. So the two arrange to meet at the Soho House. Cudi says he walks into a private room and standing there is Diddy, looking out of the window overlooking Beverly Hills. He says he looked like a Marvel supervillain. And I'm not gonna lie, the courtroom chuckled, even the jury. He says the two started talking about how he started dating Cassie, what it was, and how it ended, with Diddy responding, "You knew she was my girl." Cudi described Diddy's demeanor as calm, courteous, a little too courteous, saying he offered me water at least 2 times. Cudi says Cassie eventually shows up, and it upsets him because he realizes the two are back together. The conversation is done, the two men stand up, he says, they shake hands, and he says while he is shaking Diddy's hand, he looks him right in the eyes and says, "So what are we gonna do about my car?" And he says Diddy looks him right back in the eyes and says, "I don't know what you're talking about." Years later, Cudi says that he runs into Diddy and Diddy apologizes for everything. And he says that brought him peace because he never thought he would get an apology. I wanted to go over some frequently asked questions about the Diddy trial, starting with, why isn't it televised? So unlike the Johnny Depp Amber Heard defamation case or the OJ trial, you can't see or hear anything about the Diddy case, and here's why. Diddy is being tried in federal court where cameras and recording devices are strictly prohibited. Now, state courts where the Depp Heard case took place are a completely different story. It's up to the judge's discretion whether to allow cameras. And that's why some trials become a national spectacle and others don't. Do you remember Yolanda Saldivar, the woman that killed Selena? Her trial was not televised, and that's why it didn't get as much media attention as the Menendez brothers or OJ. What celebrities have been mentioned in the Diddy trial? The answer, a lot of high-profile celebrities. So let's go through some of them. But to be clear, none of these people have been implicated in criminal behavior. Almost all, if not all, were mentioned in a non-sexual context or indirectly. Kid Cudi, Kanye West, Chris Brown, Michael B. Jordan, Lil Wayne, Nicki Minaj, Rick Ross, Pusha T, Britney Spears, Dallas Austin, Ryan Leslie, Usher, Neo, President Obama, Mike Myers, Bruce Willis, Lauren London, Young Miami, Carisha, Suge Knight, Drake, and Michelle Williams. The black one, Destiny's Child. Some were mentioned during jury selection, others in the context of being in the entertainment industry. Can Trump pardon Diddy? Technically, Yes. The U.S. Constitution gives the president the power to issue pardons for federal offenses. That includes both convicted individuals and those facing an indictment like Diddy. Now, Rolling Stone reported that Diddy's camp is exploring the possibility of a Trump pardon. Now, Diddy and Trump, both New Yorkers, have crossed paths many times before and publicly supported each other. Trump once called Diddy a friend and attended his white parties. Diddy also regularly stayed at Trump properties. But ABC News reported that when they reached out to the White House, a spokesperson told them that the president is not considering it. Why didn't Aubrey O'Day testify? Aubrey's name throughout this Diddy drama has come up frequently, but here's the reason why she likely won't take the stand. The federal case in large part is based off of Diddy and Cassie's relationship, which started in 2007, and she says the physical abuse started around 2008. So it's likely that she wasn't present or didn't witness what Cassie is claiming, or doesn't fit into the timeline that the indictment outlines. Meanwhile, Don Richard of Danity Kane, who did testify, stayed in Diddy's circle a little longer, because after Danity Kane, she was part of Dirty Money from 2009 to 2012. And she did testify that she witnessed Diddy assaulting Cassie during that time period. In short, Aubrey may not be able to speak to the events that prosecutors are focusing on. The third witness of the day today in the Diddy trial was the Punisher, a male dancer and a repeat participant of the FOs. He says the first time that he met Cassie and Diddy was in a hotel suite at the Trump Tower overlooking Central Park. He says Cassie opens the door and she's wearing a bathrobe with nothing on underneath. He looks around and the furniture is covered in white sheets, and scattered around the room are bowls filled with water and bottles of baby oil. In her testimony, Cassie said that they used to put sheets on top of furniture to protect it, and that they would put bottles of baby oil in a bowl of water to warm it up. Hayes wrote about that encounter in a book that he recently published about erectile dysfunction. He said the hotel looked like a scene out of American Psycho, and he freaked out. Hayes testified that when he entered the room, Cassie specifically told him not to acknowledge the man in the room, a man that he later identified as Diddy wearing a veil. But he says he noticed Diddy and it made him very uncomfortable and difficult to perform. Now, the defense asked him the title of his book, and he responded, "In Search of Freezer Meat." Then Diddy's attorney Xavier Donaldson went down the same line of questioning that he did with Daniel Phillip, the other dancer who testified. Donaldson asking both men if they caught feelings for Cassie, because both men did testify that she was the most beautiful woman that they've ever seen. But Hayes said no, and Diddy's attorney congratulated him on the book. Diddy's attorney ended cross-examination by asking Hayes what he meant when he described an encounter as steamy, to which Hayes responded, "I felt it was enjoyable for Miss Ventura and Mr. Combs."
Kid Cudi's officially on the stand. They took a short break, and this is everything he has said so far. Kid Cudi identified Cassie in a photo and confirmed they dated in 2011 and said that Diddy was also involved. But when asked if he knew about their status, he said that they were not dating anymore. He testified that on December 11th, around 5:30 or 6 a.m., Cassie called him sounding nervous, scared, or stressed. She said Diddy found out about them and she gave Diddy Kid Cudi's address. She was terrified, not knowing what Diddy would do, so he picked her up and took her to Sunset Marquis Hotel because he thought it would be off Diddy's radar. While at the hotel, he said they spoke on speakerphone to Capricorn Clark, who was an employee of Diddy's and Kid Cudi's, and he said that she sounded like she was on the verge of tears. Capricorn Clark told him that Diddy and someone else were already inside his house and she was forced to go with them. He said he called Diddy and Diddy said, "I'm over here waiting for you." He said he went back to his home to confront Diddy, but noticed the security cameras had been moved. He then testified that he found out that they weren't working. Inside his home, he said he had gotten some stuff from Chanel, some gifts, and they were opened, and his dog was locked in the bathroom. He testified that in the 3 years of having his dog, he never locked him in the bathroom and let him roam around the home. But after this alleged break-in, he noticed that the dog was jittery and on edge all the time. Ultimately, he did call the police and he filed a report. He said Cassie had seemed depressed and then talked about how a month later, he and Cassie spent the holidays at her family's house in Connecticut. Apparently, Diddy texted him a few times trying to figure things out. He ignored Diddy's text saying, "I guess he was in the dark about things and wanted to talk." But at that point, post break-in, "I don't want to talk." He testified that he and Cassie did break up and then said in January of 2012, which was a month after the break-in, he finds out about his car. He said his dog sitter called him and told him that his Porsche was on fire. He said he was about 45 minutes away at a relative of his ex-girlfriend's house and his friend took photos of his car. The prosecutor then showed him 6 photos to which he identified that yes, that was his car. In the photos, you could see the hole in the roof of his car where somebody had cut it in order to put a Molotov cocktail, which blew up his car. When asked what his reaction was to his car being set on fire, he said, "What the F?" Now, this is where they took the break. He is back on the stand, and it's being said that while he was describing all of this, Diddy was sitting there very calmly, legs crossed, and no emotion. As always, I will update you with the rest of his testimony once they go on their lunch break.
Hey guys, so I just want to say, man, I've been seeing all the love and support, and I just want to say thank you so much, man. People been hitting me up the past week, just checking in, and even today, and it really means a lot to me, man. You guys are the best. I love y'all. This is a stressful situation. I'm glad it's behind me, and yeah, I love y'all, man. Big love. Go stream Neverland.